The sun hovered low over the sky, casting a soft, golden glow across the alien landscape. Captain Arlen walked slowly along the edge of a lake that shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting the strange colors of the sky. The water glowed faintly, an iridescent mix of blues, purples, and greens. Trees with floating leaves hovered in the gentle breeze, their branches bending as though they were alive in a way he had never seen before. It was beautiful, unlike anything on Earth, and Arlen could not help but feel a sense of awe mixed with excitement. He had been sent to explore this planet, one in a distant star system that showed signs of intelligent life. He had expected strange creatures, unusual plants, and perhaps even advanced technology. What he had not expected, however, was the sudden scream that pierced the calm of the forest. It was loud, high-pitched, and clearly coming from someone in distress. Arlen's heart skipped a beat. He froze, looking around, trying to find the source. The lake was still and quiet, but the echo of the scream bounced off the trees and rocks. He took a cautious step closer to the water's edge, scanning the glowing surface. Then he saw her. A figure emerged from the lake, standing on the soft sand at the shore. She was unlike any creature he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with soft colors that shifted as she moved, as if tiny lights danced just beneath the surface. She had long, flowing hair that reflected the colors of the water, and her eyes were large, bright, and full of surprise. She seemed startled, embarrassed, and angry all at once. "Sir, someone just stole my clothes," she shouted, her voice echoing across the lake. Her hands flew to her chest, trying to cover herself, though the strange colors of her skin already glowed in a way that left nothing to the imagination. Arlen blinked in shock. He had prepared for alien encounters, for strange languages, for even dangerous situations, but this was not what he had imagined. He took a careful step forward and raised his hands in a gesture of peace. I didn't take anything," he said softly, not wanting to startle her further. "Are you okay? This is very embarrassing. They are important, not just for modesty. They are a part of our culture. To be without them in public is very unusual." It ran into the forest, perhaps it took them. Her voice was firm now, more certain. "But it is not dangerous, only mischievous." It was exactly the kind of adventure he had hoped for. "Then let's find it," he said. "I will help you." "Captain Arlen, thank you." She stepped closer to the forest edge, pointing with a delicate hand. "The creature ran that way. It is small but quick. You must keep your eyes open." The air was warm and filled with the soft hum of alien insects and distant waterfalls. Arlen kept his senses alert. The forest was strange and beautiful, but he could feel it was alive in a way Earth's forests were not. He could almost sense the plants watching, listening, as they moved quietly beneath the glowing canopy. Leora moved gracefully, stepping lightly on the mossy ground, her glowing feet leaving faint impressions that vanished quickly. Arlen followed, careful not to stumble. They had walked only a short distance when they spotted small footprints glowing faintly on the ground. Leora stopped and bent down, examining them closely. "Yes," she said softly. "These are the tracks. Follow them carefully. They only play." Strange plants leaned toward them as if curious, and tiny creatures scurried away, leaving trails of soft light in their wake. Arlen kept alert, but he also felt a sense of peace. The forest was alive, but it was not dangerous. He could feel the balance of nature here, and he marveled at how different it was from Earth. After a while, the footprints led them to a small clearing. There at the center was a tiny creature, no larger than a rabbit but glowing softly in shades of green and blue. It held something that shimmered in the light, Leora's clothes. The creature froze when it saw them, blinking its large eyes. It made a soft chirping sound, almost like it was trying to explain itself. Leora's colors shifted again, this time to soft orange, a color Arlen had learned meant amusement and mild frustration. "Ah, you little rascal," she said softly. "You should not take things without asking, but I see you mean no harm." Leora picked them up carefully, her glowing hands brushing over the fabric as if it were a living thing. "Thank you," she said gently, though her colors suggested relief more than gratitude. Arlen knelt down to observe the small creature. "It's amazing," he said. "So small but full of personality. I can see why it caused trouble without intending to. It is, you must respect it, and you must respect us, its people. That is the first rule of living here." Here, on this distant planet, he realized humans were still explorers, still learners, still friends of the unknown. They walked back toward the lake together, Leora holding her recovered clothes carefully. Arlen kept a respectful distance, letting her regain her privacy. When they reached the water's edge, she paused, looking out at the shimmering lake. "Thank you, Captain Arlen," she said softly. "You could have ignored me or worse, frightened me, but you helped instead. Perhaps humans are not so different from us after all, curious, thoughtful, and brave. You may learn many things here, Captain." The sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows over the lake. The water shimmered in gold and purple, reflecting the changing sky. Arlen and Leora stood side by side, looking at the beauty of the world around them, both feeling that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. And for the first time on this mission, Arlen felt that humans, in their curiosity and kindness, could shine brightly even among the stars. The sun had just begun to rise higher in the sky, casting soft beams through the floating leaves above. Captain Arlen walked beside Leora, careful not to step on the glowing moss that blanketed the forest floor. Every step seemed to hum softly, as though the very ground beneath them was alive. Arlen had explored many worlds, but he had never felt a forest so full of energy and curiosity. It was as if the plants and creatures were aware of their presence, watching quietly, waiting to see what would happen next. Leora moved ahead with grace, her glowing feet leaving soft impressions in the moss that faded almost immediately. Her colors shifted constantly, a soft pattern of blue and lavender, signaling thoughtfulness and curiosity. She glanced at Arlen occasionally, her large eyes observing him with an intensity that made him feel both nervous and honored. "Do you always explore your forests alone?" Arlen asked, trying to make conversation. "I mean, this place is incredible, but it seems like it could be dangerous without a guide. It is more important to understand them than to fight them. I think it would take me years to learn to read this forest the way you do." Every so often, a small chirping sound echoed through the trees. Leora would pause and tilt her head, then smile knowingly. Arlen tried to follow her gaze, but often found that he could see nothing unusual. It was frustrating at first, but he quickly learned that the forest was alive in ways he could not immediately understand. After a while, they reached a small clearing where the air was warmer, and the sunlight created tiny rainbows as it passed through floating droplets of water. Leora knelt down to examine the footprints carefully. "The creature is clever," she said softly. "It knows the forest well. It will not go too far from its home, but it enjoys leading others on a chase. That is how it plays. They are like children, exploring the world, testing limits, learning what is safe and what is forbidden." Arlen looked up and saw a small creature perched on a branch, its tiny body glowing with a gentle blue light. Its large eyes blinked at them and it chirped softly. Leora's colors shifted to pale green, a color Arlen had learned meant attentiveness. "There it is," she whispered. "Do not startle it, let it see us as friends." He realized that, despite all his training, he had never approached an alien species in such a careful, gentle way. It required patience, empathy, and respect, the same qualities humans had cultivated for diplomacy and exploration. The creature chirped again and leaped from the branch to the ground, hopping lightly over the moss. Leora followed its movements with ease, stepping silently behind it. Arlen did his best to mimic her, keeping his steps soft and careful. The creature paused occasionally, looking back at them with curious eyes as though testing their intentions. "It is very clever," Arlen whispered. "I have never seen anything like it. You must be clever as well if you want to earn their trust." He tried to pay attention, noticing small details, the flicker of glowing leaves, the shift in shadows, the soft hum of energy that passed through the air. Eventually, they reached a grove filled with towering plants that glowed faintly in shades of violet and gold. The creature disappeared among the roots, and Arlen looked around, unsure of where to go next. Leora knelt again, her glowing hands brushing gently over the moss. "It is close. It is hidden well, but it is not far. We must be patient." But here it was about understanding, observation, and empathy. Humans could bring their intelligence, creativity, and patience to the task, and that was just as important as any tool or weapon. A soft, giggling sound echoed from the roots of a glowing plant. The creature had been watching them the whole time, curious about their determination. It hopped out carrying something that sparkled faintly. Leora's eyes widened slightly. "Ah, it has my clothes," she said, her colors shifting to soft pink. "It is returning them, but only because it wants to play first. We must earn them. By showing respect and cleverness, we cannot take forceful action. The creature will not respond to fear or anger. We must think, observe, and act kindly." It was a reminder of why exploration mattered, not just for science, but for building bridges across worlds. Leora stepped forward slowly, extending her hand. "Hello, little one. We only want to be friends. Can we see your home?" Leora and Arlen followed, careful not to disturb the glowing plants and moss. They entered a small clearing filled with soft, glowing fungi and floating plants. The creature settled in the center, dropping Leora's clothes gently. She picked them up, her hands brushing over the fabric as if it were alive. "Thank you," she said softly, her colors shifting in a pattern that showed happiness and relief. Arlen crouched beside her, observing the small creature. "It is remarkable," he whispered. "So small, yet so intelligent and playful. I can see why it caused trouble without intending to. We must guide them, not punish them. That is the way of our people." As they walked back toward the lake, Leora held her clothes carefully, her colors soft and calm. The small creature followed at a distance, chirping occasionally, as if bidding them farewell. Arlen could not help but smile. This was exactly the kind of experience he had hoped for when he became an explorer, not just discovering new worlds, but forming connections and learning from them. When they reached the lake, Leora paused, looking at the water with a thoughtful expression. "This forest is alive," she said softly. "Every plant, every creature has its role. To live here, one must understand that life is connected, that respect and patience are more powerful than any weapon." He had faced many dangers in his career, but this lesson was unlike anything he had learned before. Humans could be clever, curious, and kind, and that was a power that could shine across the universe. Leora turned to him, her colors flickering with warmth. "You have done well today, Captain. You observed, you learned, you showed patience. That is a sign of wisdom." "I have you to thank for that," he said. "You have taught me more about understanding and respect than I could have imagined." Arlen realized that this was only the beginning of his journey, that there were countless lessons waiting in this world, and that humans could indeed shine through kindness, intelligence, and curiosity. For the first time, he felt that exploration was not just about discovering new places, but about discovering the best parts of humanity reflected in the unknown. And with that thought, he followed Leora back into the forest, ready for the adventures yet to come. The morning air was cool and soft, filled with the scent of glowing flowers and the faint hum of the forest. Captain Arlen walked carefully beside Leora, following the winding path through the floating plants and luminescent moss. Every step brought new wonders. Small creatures with translucent wings hovered in the air, and flowers that glowed with shifting colors leaned toward them as if curious. The forest seemed to breathe and watch them, alive in ways he had never experienced on Earth. Leora moved with ease, her glowing feet making no sound on the moss. She paused now and then, tilting her head to listen to sounds imperceptible to Arlen. Her colors shifted in soft patterns of green and blue, signaling thought and attention. Arlen noticed that the forest seemed to respond to her presence. Leaves swayed gently even without wind, and faint sparkles of light traced her steps. He realized that Leora was more than just a guide. She was part of the forest, almost like it responded to her thoughts. "Where are we going now?" Arlen asked softly. He did not want to disturb the quiet, but he was curious. "To a place where the younglings play," Leora replied. "They often explore together. It is how they learn about the forest and each other. You will see how clever they can be." The sunlight poured in through floating leaves, creating shifting patterns of light on the ground. Small creatures flitted about, glowing faintly in shades of green, blue, and violet. Some hopped along the moss, others flew in circles above their heads. Their movements were playful, almost mischievous, but not threatening. Leora knelt and spoke softly in a language Arlen could not understand. One of the creatures paused, its large eyes blinking. Then it chirped a series of high, melodic notes. Leora's colors shifted to warm gold and pink, and the creature slowly approached, stopping a few steps away. "Captain Arlen," Leora said gently, "these are younglings like children. They are curious, playful, and intelligent. They must learn respect for one another and for their home, but they do so through games and challenges. You will see." The movements were quick and clever, yet there was a harmony in their chaos. "They are incredible," Arlen whispered. "So small, yet so coordinated and smart. It is amazing to watch. Even their play teaches them about life, about boundaries, and about cooperation. If we frighten it, it will retreat. The younglings sometimes leave these for those they trust or admire. It is an honor to receive it. You humans can learn from that, just as we can learn from your curiosity and creativity." The creatures displayed remarkable intelligence. They used small glowing sticks to reach objects, helped each other navigate tricky spots, and even seemed to communicate with patterns of chirps and glowing signals. Arlen marveled at their cleverness and at the gentle guidance Leora offered without interfering. "It is like a school," Arlen said softly, watching a creature show another how to climb a floating branch. "But without teachers forcing rules. They learn by doing, experimenting, and helping each other. Every action is a lesson in cooperation and thoughtfulness." The creature hesitated but then touched it lightly with a tiny paw. It chirped softly as if approving of him. Arlen smiled, feeling a connection he had never expected. "You see," Leora said, watching him, "even a human can earn trust here if you are careful and kind. It is not force that matters, but understanding and patience." He had encountered dangerous situations before, and humans often solved problems with technology or force. But here, it was different. Respect, intelligence, and patience were the true strengths, and he realized that humans could shine through these qualities just as much as through power or invention. They continued on until they reached a small hill overlooking a sparkling waterfall. The water cascaded down in sheets of liquid light, pooling into a basin that glowed faintly. Leora paused, looking at the scene with wonder. "This is one of the sacred places," she said softly. "The younglings come here to learn about energy, about movement, and about balance. It teaches them that life is connected, that everything matters, and that understanding is more powerful than force." Here he saw both in action in the creatures, the forest, and in Leora herself. A small group of younglings arrived, carrying glowing sticks and playing gently in the water. Leora knelt beside them, speaking softly. The creatures chirped and responded, showing her patterns of light in the air. Arlen observed closely. Even though he could not fully understand their language, he could feel the intelligence and thought behind every action. "They are teaching her just as she teaches them," Arlen whispered. "It is like a cycle of learning where everyone gains knowledge from one another. Observation, patience, and respect are universal lessons. You have already learned much today." They spent the rest of the day at the waterfall, observing, learning, and interacting carefully with the younglings. Arlen learned to read small movements, to notice tiny shifts in light and sound, and to understand when patience was required versus when action was needed. It was exhausting but exhilarating. He felt his mind opening in ways he had never imagined. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows and painting the sky in soft pinks and purples, Leora stood beside him. Her colors glowed gently in the fading light. "You have done well today, Captain Arlen," she said. "You observed carefully, learned quickly, and treated all creatures with respect. That is a true sign of understanding." "I have you to thank, Leora. You've shown me a way to see life differently, to understand without force, and to appreciate intelligence in forms I never expected. Humans can shine here if they remember that." When they finally returned to the forest path leading back to the lake, Arlen felt a sense of pride and purpose. He had come to this world to explore, but he had discovered so much more: the value of patience, the power of respect, and the brilliance of kindness. He understood now that humans could indeed shine brightly across the universe, not through weapons or dominance, but through curiosity, empathy, and clever thinking. And as the stars began to appear in the soft twilight sky, he walked beside Leora, ready for whatever new lessons and adventures awaited in the days to come. The next morning, the forest was bathed in soft golden light, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of glowing flowers. Captain Arlen awoke to the gentle hum of life all around him. The tiny creatures of the forest chirped and fluttered as the sun's rays danced through the floating leaves above. He stretched and took a deep breath, feeling a calm excitement. Today promised to be another day full of learning, adventure, and discovery. Leora was already waiting at the edge of the lake, her glowing form reflecting softly on the water. She smiled as she saw him approach. "Good morning, Captain Arlen," she said. "Today we will explore a different part of the forest. It is where the younglings come to test their cleverness. You will see how playful and intelligent they can be, and perhaps even learn a few things yourself. Yesterday was amazing, but I have a feeling today will be even more exciting." Leora moved with her usual grace, glancing at Arlen with a look that reminded him to pay attention, to observe, and to respect the rhythm of the forest. After some time, they arrived at a clearing filled with soft moss and scattered glowing stones. In the center, several younglings were gathered, chirping and hopping around. They carried small objects that glimmered in the sunlight, moving quickly but with purpose. Leora knelt to observe them closely. "These younglings are learning about problem-solving today," she said softly. "They have hidden these objects and each other to challenge their senses, intelligence, and cooperation skills. They are playful, but every action is a lesson in thinking and understanding. Yes, cooperation comes naturally here. Every youngling learns from the others. They experiment, observe, and communicate with patience. There is no force, no competition in the harsh sense, only learning and mutual respect." It carried a small, round object in its paws, tilting its head as if considering whether to show them. Leora extended her hand slowly, a gentle gesture of invitation. The creature chirped softly and placed the object at her feet. "This is a challenge for you, Captain Arlen," Leora said. "The younglings want to see how you solve it. It may seem simple, but you must think carefully. Observe, respect, and use cleverness. That is the way to succeed here." He realized the challenge was not about strength or speed, but about understanding the purpose and properties of the object. "Okay," he said, focusing. "I think I understand. I need to observe and use it thoughtfully, not just act quickly. Everything is connected." The colors of the crystal shifted in harmony with the surrounding life. The younglings chirped in delight, hopping in small circles. Leora smiled. "You see, they are responding to your understanding, not to force. You are learning their language of thought, observation, and respect. Humans often solved problems with tools, force, or speed, but here, intelligence, patience, and empathy were the true measures of success." He continued to interact with the crystal and the younglings for several hours, learning their patterns and responses. The creatures tested him with new challenges, hiding objects, leading him to different areas, and observing how he reacted. Each time he thought carefully, observed the environment, and acted with respect and creativity. Leora watched silently, occasionally giving subtle guidance through gestures and expressions. Her colors shifted in ways that indicated approval, amusement, or curiosity. Arlen realized that humans could shine in situations like this, using ingenuity, empathy, and attention to detail rather than force. Eventually, the younglings gathered in a circle, chirping and hopping in a coordinated display. Leora bent down, speaking softly to them. The creatures chirped in response, then approached Arlen, carrying the glowing objects they had hidden earlier. "They are returning what they hid," Leora explained. "They have judged you worthy through observation and cleverness. You have earned their respect and trust. You humans have a special kind of cleverness. You think differently, creatively. That can be very valuable here. You have shown it today. They share it with those they admire or who have learned their ways. It is an honor. It reminds me that humans can connect with life in any world, if we use our minds and hearts wisely. Even small mistakes can teach lessons if we observe carefully. Humans often rush, but cleverness comes from thinking, observing, and respecting the world." When they reached the grove, the younglings were engaged in a coordinated game of strategy and movement. They challenged each other to solve puzzles, navigate tricky areas, and communicate without words. Arlen watched in amazement. The creatures were intelligent, cooperative, and playful in a way he had never seen. Leora gestured for him to join. "You may participate if you wish. It will teach you more about observation and cooperation." Hours passed in this way, and by the end, Arlen felt a deep connection with the forest, the creatures, and Leora. He had learned lessons about intelligence, patience, empathy, and cleverness, lessons that humans could use anywhere in the universe. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with warm colors, Leora and Arlen walked back toward the lake. The forest glowed softly in the evening light, and the younglings returned to their homes, chirping and twinkling as they disappeared into the moss and leaves. "You have done well today, Captain," Leora said. "You observed, learned, and connected with life in ways humans often overlook. That is the essence of understanding, and it is what allows humans to shine among the stars. You can explore, learn, and connect in ways no one else can. The future is bright if you remember these lessons." And with that thought, he followed Leora back into the glowing forest, ready for the next adventure, knowing that every challenge could be met with intelligence, patience, and the best of humanity shining through. The morning light filtered through the forest canopy, soft and golden, as Captain Arlen and Leora prepared for another day of exploration. The lake shimmered gently behind them, reflecting the floating leaves and glowing plants in the water. Arlen stretched his arms and breathed in the fresh air, feeling both excitement and a calm sense of purpose. After the past days of discovery, he was beginning to feel more connected to this world than he had expected. Leora's glowing form shifted softly, her colors a mix of gentle blue and warm gold. She smiled at him. "Today, Captain, you will see how the lessons of this forest come together. Observation, patience, cooperation, and cleverness are not separate. They work together. You have learned much already, but today you will see the value of applying everything you have understood. I want to see how everything connects." The floating leaves, glowing plants, and shimmering water all moved in harmony, responding subtly to the life around them. As they approached a large clearing, Arlen noticed a series of intricate structures built from glowing branches and stones. The younglings were gathered there, arranging objects carefully, communicating with each other through patterns of light and soft chirps. It was a complex display of intelligence and cooperation. "This is a learning circle," Leora explained softly. "The younglings work together to solve challenges. It teaches them observation, patience, strategy, and creativity, and today, Captain, you will join them. You have learned patience, cleverness, and respect. Now you will see how humans and other beings can work together to solve a larger challenge." Objects glowed with soft light, and the younglings moved them in specific sequences, coordinating without words. Arlen realized that he had to understand the logic behind their actions and contribute thoughtfully if he wanted to succeed. He knelt beside Leora, studying the glowing stones. "I think I understand," he said. "It's about patterns, observation, and timing, not speed. I need to watch carefully and act in harmony with the others." Each time he acted thoughtfully, considering the rhythm and logic behind their movements, the creatures responded positively, chirping and hopping in celebration. When he made small mistakes, they adjusted, showing him the correct approach without frustration or anger. Arlen felt a sense of pride mixed with humility. He realized that humans often solved problems with force or tools, but here, intelligence, patience, and empathy were the most powerful skills. He had never felt so connected to another world, yet so proud of the human capacity to adapt, observe, and collaborate. Leora watched silently, occasionally shifting her colors to indicate approval or gentle guidance. Her eyes gleamed with warmth as she observed Arlen's careful attention to the younglings' actions. "You are learning not just from them, Captain, but with them," she said softly. "That is how understanding is formed. Observation alone is not enough. You must interact, adapt, and contribute." Humans often explored, observed, and documented, but the true strength lay in understanding and connection. Here, he was using every part of himself, mind, heart, and curiosity, to succeed. After completing the challenge successfully, the younglings gathered around Arlen and Leora. They chirped and twirled in excitement, and a few approached him, carrying small glowing objects as tokens of approval. Arlen bent down, accepting them carefully. The warmth and light of the tokens seemed to resonate with the energy of the forest. "These are gifts," Leora said, her colors softening to gold and green. "They are symbols of respect and trust. The younglings give them to those who demonstrate understanding, patience, and cleverness. You have earned their friendship, Captain. Curiosity, creativity, empathy, and patience are strengths that can shine anywhere. You have shown them here." Arlen felt a sense of harmony and balance, knowing that every step he took respected the life around him. They reached the lake, and Leora paused, looking at the shimmering water. "The lake is sacred," she said softly. "It is a place of reflection. What you have learned here is part of something larger. Observation, patience, creativity, and respect are tools that can guide you anywhere in the universe." He felt a quiet pride in humanity, realizing that humans had the ability to shine in any world, not through strength or domination, but through understanding, creativity, and empathy. Leora's eyes met his. "You have learned well, Captain. You have shown patience, cleverness, and respect. That is the essence of intelligence. You have proven that humans can connect with life anywhere, and that is a strength greater than any weapon. Share it, teach it, and remember that the greatest discoveries are not of land or water, but of hearts and minds." He had found all of that, but more importantly, he had learned lessons about patience, empathy, creativity, and the power of cleverness combined with kindness. The younglings chirped softly around them, as if celebrating the end of their challenge. Leora placed a gentle hand on Arlen's shoulder. "The forest, the creatures, and I will remember you, Captain. And you will carry our lessons into the universe. I will carry this with me and remember that humans can be clever, kind, and understanding anywhere." Leora and Arlen stood side by side, looking at the beauty of the world around them, both knowing that this experience had changed them. "You have done well, Captain," Leora said quietly. "Humans have a place among the stars, not just as explorers, but as learners, friends, and clever problem solvers. You have shown that today. I have learned that humans can shine through understanding, patience, and creativity. That is a lesson I will never forget." It had been about connection, connecting with life, with intelligence, with empathy, and with the best parts of humanity itself. He knew that humans could carry these lessons to every world they visited, building bridges of understanding wherever they went. Leora glanced at him, her colors shifting softly in the evening light. "The forest will always remember you, Captain Arlen. And perhaps one day you will return, bringing more humans who can learn, observe, and shine." The gentle hum of life surrounded them, a reminder that every world, every creature, and every being had a story to teach those willing to listen. And in that quiet, glowing forest, Captain Arlen knew that humans could indeed shine brightly across the stars, not through force or domination, but through intelligence, patience, creativity, and the kindness of the heart. The adventure was complete, yet the lessons would remain forever.